Welcome in. This is Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me on another Chiefs Chase because we just can't stop.
Short. Pacheco almost caught in the backfield. Instead, into the open field and accelerating. Pacheco in for the touchdown. The Jersey Kid back in his home state for 6.
We love doing this show. We appreciate the fact that you enjoy this show, and we're just going to keep doing it all the time. And we have a ton of NFL news to get to and a smorgasbord of Chiefs topics. In fact, there is huge news breaking in the NFL this morning that's going to send a ripple through the AFC and the NFC. Get to that in just a few minutes. But first, we have to talk Josh Simmons, the Chiefs' first-round draft pick, number 32 overall. Now, there were some questions as to why Josh Simmons fell to number 32. For me, I don't really question what happens when guys fall to the Chiefs because I see the NFL as completely and utterly inept. The only place where there's more nepotism than Hollywood might be the NFL because a lot of these people in these high positions have no clue what they're doing, and they absolutely prove it every offseason with their terrible free agency signings, their insane quarterback contracts, and their terrible draft picks. So I never once even questioned why Josh Simmons fell to number 32, but apparently, according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, he fell to number 32 and out of the top 20 despite having the best tape in the entire draft for tackles. He fell because of character concerns. Oh, geez. Oh, here it goes. Oh, here it goes, man. Every time. Where's Kel Mitchell when I need him? Oh, here it goes. Let's hear what Jeremy Fowler has to say. And by the way, I trust Jeremy Fowler. If Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, I don't do a lot of this guy says this on this show because I know how many people are absolutely lying about their sources. We see them all over the country. We see them nationally. However, when Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says something, I can take it to the bank. I was in the media for almost 10 years. There is a laundry list of people I don't trust and a pretty short list of people I do. But Jeremy Fowler is on the list of people I 100% trust when he talks about his sources. So Jeremy Fowler of ESPN wrote the following. Josh Simmons' tape was better than any offensive lineman in the draft, according to multiple executives. Most teams I consulted with were not overly concerned with his recovery from a torn patellar tendon. We thought that was a big reason. Apparently not. Fowler goes on to say, it's the proverbial character concerns that kept him out of the top 20 per those I spoke to around the league. As one AFC personnel man put it, quote, certain things are important to Josh, like pass blocking and game day. But others are not, such as practices and run blocking, end quote. Fowler finishes by saying it's up to the Chiefs, who are a veteran-laden team with a championship pedigree, to harness that ability and maximize the skill set. I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, I know that people are telling Jeremy Fowler this. He would not make it up. I question, though, if they told him this after the draft, if people were like, well, we really liked his tape, too. That's what this is. After the draft happens, after the Kansas City Chiefs, the dynasty, the unquestionable best organization in the NFL takes Josh Simmons, you have 31 other teams trying to leak out press things to make Josh Simmons look like he has character issues because they want to cover their own backside because of how terrible they are when it comes to drafting. So they're like, oh, well, he doesn't really practice hard, and we don't like his run blocking ability. You can just make up anything you want to try to cover up for the fact that you didn't take the tackle that had the best tape in the entire draft of any offensive lineman. You let him drop to number 32? Yeah, I'd probably come up with some phantom character concerns too. But let's pretend for a moment, because I don't know everything. We all don't know everything. Let's pretend, let's live in the world where Josh Simmons does have some character concerns, where he might be a little lazy in practice and he might be a little lazy when it comes to run blocking. Let's just live in the world where that's the reality. Are you really that concerned that he would have those same issues with the Kansas City Chiefs? with one of the most dominating veteran-laden teams in the NFL. I have zero worries about character concerns surrounding Josh Simmons and the Kansas City Chiefs because look at the guys he's playing next to. Do you think there's a world where he's supposed to run block and he's standing next to Travis Kelce at practice? Kelce's at 36 years old, is just going full bore into everything, and Josh Simmons is taking a play off. Do you think Travis is going to not say anything about that?
Need one, dude? Yeah. I got you.
No, he's going to lose his mind. You think on a running play, if he decides to take a play off, Creed Humphrey isn't going to say something to him? Or, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes? So the thing is, with the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't worry about character issues. Nobody should worry about character issues because if you have them, the veterans on the team will fix it. If he comes around slow around the corner and Chris Jones just buries him, yeah, welcome to the NFL. This and Ohio State. So if there is, and again, I don't know, this is just things that are being said by people around the NFL to Jeremy Fowler, and I 100% believe they're being said. Now, what is the motive behind them? I don't know. Could be that they're honest. Could be that they want to play a little CYA, cover themselves for not drafting him. It could be all of that. But either way, I don't worry about it with this team. And not just because of the veteran leadership, but because the veteran leadership on the Kansas City Chiefs is allowed to be themselves and allowed to take control because they have Andy Reid. This is an interesting thing that not enough people talk about when it comes to Andy Reid as the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, or really the head coach of anything, of any team, whether it's Philly or Kansas City. Andy Reid has always been a player's coach. And early in his career, that was a big criticism of Andy Reid. They said, oh, Andy Reid's a player's coach. He doesn't have a strong enough, I don't know, what do you call it, a strong enough iron fist to run the team? Well, 20 years ago, when Andy Reid was a young coach in Philadelphia, he was only like 5, 6, 7 years in. He'd had a bunch of NFC championship appearances, one Super Bowl appearance. People thought Andy Reid being this player's coach, this softer guy, was a detriment. And that's true. There was a time where Andy Reid being a softer, players-friendly coach was somewhat of a detriment to him because there was a time where Bill Parcells, who was just MFing everybody up and down the sideline, was the quintessential coach. It's what everybody expected to be. But now it's 2025. We live in a softer society. We live in a softer NFL where athletes don't respond to the Bill Parcells way anymore. They respond to the Andy Reid way, which is why I'm shocked when I hear people ask if Andy Reid's going to retire. Why would you retire? You have Patrick Mahomes, and society has softened to the point where your coaching style is perfect. So I don't worry about Josh Simmons and these character concerns that were brought up by other organizations throughout the draft because they aren't the Chiefs. And they don't have Andy. And they don't have Travis Kelce. They don't have Chris Jones. They don't have Patrick Mahomes. They don't have Trent McDuffie. They don't have George Karlaftis. They don't have Creed Humphrey. They don't have Trey Smith. So I could keep going down the list. There are a bazillion reasons why I do not have any concerns about Josh Simmons having quote-unquote character concerns. Andy's got this, man. Let's see. What else do we have here? There was a lot to cover there. I think I remember most of it. Oh, you know what? Here's one part of it. People always ask this question, and this is asked every year. Why does Travis Kelce get to be Andy Reid's favorite? Because everyone knows Andy Reid's favorite is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is Andy Reid's favorite because Travis Kelce holds people accountable. If you mess up, Travis is there. And that's the way it is across the board. Travis holds Andy Reid accountable. See the Super Bowl against the 49ers 2 years ago. You might not like what happened, but did Travis start getting the ball? Did the Chiefs come back from a deficit against the 49ers and win the Super Bowl? This is part of it. The reason Travis gets away with everything is because Andy knows if there is somebody on the team who's not given 100% in training camp or in practice, Travis is going to be on that ass. And that is so incredibly important when it comes to having a championship level football team. The coaches can't do it by themselves. That's not what we do anymore. The Bill Parcells era is over. The Andy Reid era is now. And coaches are not these hardcore disciplinarians that they used to be. They have to have the other guys on the team step into those roles, hold on their guys accountable, make sure that their guys are ready. That's what Travis Kelce has done for years, especially in his 30s in Kansas City, and it's why he's Andy Reid's favorite. He went from the guy that always had to be doing something, that always had to have somebody come talk to him, that always was pouting. I was there. I covered the Chiefs for years. I was in the locker room with him in 2017 and 2016. And I'll tell you the one thing Travis didn't want to do, talk to us. He was all moping around all the time. And then something switched. It might have been Patrick Mahomes, but something. Notice I said 16 and 17. Something switched after those years where Travis suddenly was having the most fun ever and he was putting in all the time. Probably because the Chiefs went from a playoff team, a Dallas Cowboys level team, to a dynasty because they got Patrick Mahomes. With Alex Smith, the Chiefs were Dallas Cowboys. They were. Playoffs in 13, playoffs in 15, 16, and 17. So that's 4 out of 5 years the Chiefs won the playoffs, and they had 0 losing seasons in that stretch. That was before Patrick Mahomes, and those were all of Travis Kelce's first years because he was drafted in 2013. With Patrick, Travis changed. He became more focused. He became more driven, probably because he saw the opportunity to go win a bunch of championships. And what do you know? So I have 0 worries about the culture of the Kansas City Chiefs taking on anybody who might have quote-unquote character problems.
Mahomes steps up, throws, and he got it! Touchdown, Kelce!
Now, the rumor mill has a huge name potentially coming to Kansas City in the late free agency period. We will dive into that here in just a couple of minutes. But first, a massive breaking story out of the NFL, a trade that is going to cause a ripple effect through the AFC and the NFC as George Pickens, wide receiver, is traded from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Dallas Cowboys for a 3rd-round pick and a pick swap. It's big news because now you have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on the same team with the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Dak Prescott, throwing him the ball. My initial reaction to this, the first thing that went through my head, I always want to give you the first thought that went through my head. The first thought that went through my head when I saw that George Pickens was going to the Dallas Cowboys, there is a really good shot that George Pickens ruins Dak Prescott and breaks him for good. George Pickens is one of the most insufferable people on the planet. He's the most insufferable player in the NFL, which is saying something considering Stephon Diggs exists. This guy causes problems on the field, off the field, in the locker room, and he did that in Pittsburgh, where Mike Tomlin does everything to keep that locker room sane. He made Antonio Brown look like a sane person. He made Le'Veon Bell look like a team player. In fact, he made Chase Claypool look like a legitimate NFL wide receiver. There's nothing Mike Tomlin can't do when it comes to keeping a locker room together. And George Pickens had problems there. Imagine what he's going to do in Dallas when he eats Dak Prescott alive and the highest paid quarterback in the NFL is going to break mentally in 2025. That is 100% how I see this playing out because Dak's on edge anyway. He's never gotten past the divisional round. He makes all this money, has all these expectations, and still has yet to deliver. So understanding that, I see no world at all where this works out well. I see no world where the Dallas Cowboys, and they might start hot. They might start hot as hell. I could see the first 8 games going really well. But you know what happens in the middle of every season? Adversity. We know it as Chiefs fans, right? It happens every year for Chiefs. Every year in the middle of the season, there's adversity. But it happens for every other team too. The question as to whether or not you're a championship caliber football franchise is, can you handle the adversity that will inevitably strike at some point in the season? The Dallas Cowboys have proven over and over again they cannot. And they've added now a very volatile personality that's proven over and over again that when he doesn't get the ball 10 times for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, he's upset. So I see no world where George Pickens going to the Dallas Cowboys is anything other than an unmitigated disaster. It's going to be a disaster, guys. There's no way. So that's my initial reaction. By the way, 3rd round pick and a pick swap. Translation, Pittsburgh saying, get this guy out of here. Now, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? I think it'll be a total blow up in everybody's face. But I don't want to be that guy that doesn't give both sides of the story. I pride myself on this show of getting all sides of the story, unless they're insane, like the narrative about the Chiefs being like the game being rigged for the Chiefs. Those are insane narratives I don't give any mind to. But in this situation, there are definitely 2 sides to the story. I don't know what's going to happen. There's a chance George Pickens goes to Dallas and everything is hunky-dory. How's that for a term? Everything's all hunky-dory for George Pickens and Dallas Cowboys. They're feeling all good. Everybody's all hyped up, and they go win a Super Bowl with George Pickens having a career season. There's a reality where that happens. So what if I'm wrong? Well, then Pickens and Lamb become the new Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, and we see a St. Louis Rams-esque run by the Dallas Cowboys that will be one of the more fun teams to watch this season and an absolute blast had by all. Maybe that's what happens. But I will say this for Jerry Jones and Big D. They keep it interesting, brother. They keep it interesting. You will never go into a Dallas Cowboys season without a storyline. Whether it's paying Dak Prescott an unseemly amount of money or bringing in the most volatile, annoying wide receiver in the NFL. Remember when the Chiefs played the Steelers? That was Christmas Day, right? In Pittsburgh. Remember George Pickens? What a tool. What an absolute tool. Maybe he goes to the Dallas Cowboys. You know, here's the deal. If Pickens came to the Chiefs, I would actually be a little worried. Some guys are beyond help. Well, I don't worry about Josh Simmons, but Pickens is nuts, man. And his ego is the size of Texas. I don't know if they're going to be able to fit his ego in the state when he moves to the play for the Dallas Cowboys. So I'd be worried about him in any scenario. But you're going to put him, one of the most volatile people in the NFL, you're going to put him in one of the most volatile franchises in the NFL. You think George Pickens going to the Dallas Cowboys is going to yield anything other than Dak Prescott completely melting down and breaking for good? It won't. Dak is going to fall apart because he has CeeDee Lamb, who's like the most patient wide receiver, dealing with all the nonsense in Dallas and not making any real noise about it. That's a godsend for the Cowboys that they clearly don't appreciate enough because they bring in George Pickens, who is the polar opposite of that. And the Steelers couldn't be happier to get rid of him. That should tell you everything you need to know about how bad of a trade this is for the Dallas Cowboys and how it's going to blow up in their face spectacularly in the 2025 season. So thank you, Dallas Cowboys, for continuing to be a nonstop source of entertainment for everyone who's not a Cowboys fan. What else do we have? Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this. At this point, I love Cowboys fans. Cowboys fans celebrated today like they won the Super Bowl. Every May, the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Have you noticed that? Every May, the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl. And we have to sit and but I enjoy it now because we all know how it ends. You know what I mean? We've seen the story play out too many times. We know how this goes for Dallas. They aren't getting past the divisional round. They never do. All right, moving on. The Chiefs have a standout at rookie camp that everybody is talking about, and I have a couple of questions. I don't really understand a lot of what's going on with this kid and why he's in Kansas City. Yeah, there's a lot to look into. But first, there is one big name player who could be coming to Kansas City, as CBS Sports is rumoring that Nick Chubb could come to the Kansas City Chiefs as a free agent running back.
Chubb Chubb with running room. Chubb to the 40. On his way to the end zone.
The Chiefs need depth at running back. Brashard Smith, 7th-round pick. I really like him as an idea, but we haven't seen him at the next level. We don't know what he's going to look like. Kareem Hunt, battering ram. I think he's going to be even better this year after getting a full offseason to beef up, man. I'm telling you, it's hard to be ready and sitting on your couch 3 weeks into the season like Kareem Hunt was. One of the most incredible things I've ever seen is that Kareem Hunt came off the couch in week 3 last year, only spent 1 week on the practice squad, and then carried the ball over 20 times per game for the Chiefs for weeks. That was one of the most incredible human feats I've ever seen in my entire life. So I am very excited to see what Kareem Hunt does after a full offseason of knowing he has a team, a full training camp of being with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he could really have a renaissance year this season and resurrect his career entirely. And the Chiefs should also grab another running back. Like, I'm just being honest, because we don't know how healthy Isaiah Pacheco is. Isaiah Pacheco, if he's healthy, phenomenal. If he's the guy that he was in 2022 and 2023, oh man, this offense is going to be unstoppable, man. With that wide receiver core, the beefing up to the offensive line, and Pacheco back at 100%, dude, it's over. The Chiefs' offense is going to explode. But what if he's not? And that's where names like Nick Chubb, names like J.K. Dobbins have been circulating around NFL circles as potential additions for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I would love to see Nick Chubb, because I was looking up Nick Chubb's stuff, not just I've seen the plays. I need to see his film, but I was looking up his stats today. You know, in his first 6 years before the knee injury that made him frankly a different player last year, but he had just come back from it. So we don't know how healthy Nick Chubb is. But before the injury, 6 years in the NFL, playing for the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb never averaged less than 5 yards per carry on a season. Do you know how freaking crazy that is? That Nick Chubb, playing for the Browns, this is not Nick Chubb playing for the New England Patriots of the mid-2000s or the early to mid-2000s with the juggernaut everything. This is Nick Chubb with the Cleveland Browns. In the year before he got injured, he ran for over 1,500 yards and over 5 yards per carry like he did for all 6 years that he was healthy. That's unreal by every definition for Nick Chubb. And if he came to Kansas City and we could see a new Nick Chubb, the guy that was from 2 years ago, that's a scary thought for the rest of the AFC. Right? The AFC West has been pulling out all the stops. They've been doing everything. Go get Pete Carroll. Go get Jim Harbaugh. Go get Sean Payton. Creating the Avengers in the AFC West of coaches to try to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, who have not lost the AFC West since 2015 to Peyton Manning. They've done everything they can to try to cut down the Chiefs. If the Chiefs are able to get Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb plays at the level he was at before his injury, the Chiefs won't lose a game. I'm dead serious. Like, we're talking about a team that has a chance to run the table. I'm dead real, because how do you stop that? If you have a dynamic rushing offense added to this wide receiver core that is, with Rashee Rice back, is going to be absolutely filled with studs. And we'll talk about Royals coming up here in a little bit too. I got a whole thing about Royals. But this offense is shaping up to be incredible. But if you could add one more running back, oh my gosh, a guy that has the ability to run like Pacheco ran in 22 and 23. Now, if that's Pacheco, gangbusters, we're going. But if it's not Pacheco, then I don't know. So the running back situation is still a spotlight for the Kansas City Chiefs. And there's a lot of rumors out there about Nick Chubb coming to the Kansas City Chiefs. Either way, though, in Veach we trust, because if they're saying we don't want Nick Chubb, my guess is that Brett Veach, they came in, saw him, and said he's just not what he used to be. And that would be really sad for Nick Chubb, because I think like most people, I really like Nick Chubb. He seems like a great guy. He would be a phenomenal addition as a human being to Kansas City. But, obviously the playability has to be there. And if Brett Veach says it is, I'm on board. If Brett Veach says it isn't, I'm also on board, because that's kind of how you 3 Super Bowls, 5 Super Bowl appearances, every AFC championship game since 2018, 7 straight. Yeah. So whatever Brett Veach says, man, we're good. All right. Now the NFL has the funniest news story ever that every Kansas City Chiefs fan should be celebrating. I can't wait to talk about this. It's coming up in a few minutes. But first, the Chiefs have a standout at rookie camp that everybody is talking about. Meet Jake Briningstool, tight end out of Clemson, the talk of the Kansas City Chiefs rookie training camp. People look at this guy. He is 6'6", 240. 6'6", 240, 2-time All-ACC. He looks like an absolute monster in his tape. He looks exactly like what Travis Kelce looked like coming out of Cincinnati, where he finds big spaces. He's able to get himself open. And I think this is the most Kelce thing I saw in the tape. Inside the 10, he has an extra gear. That's a thing Travis Kelce has had his whole career, especially in his prime. Inside the 10, he had a nose for the end zone where no matter what, if he had a shot at it, he was going to get there. And that, my friends, is exactly what I see on the tape when I watch Briningstool. So I'm very excited for Jake Briningstool and what he could bring to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, we're looking for Travis Kelce's replacement at this point. That's obviously happening. And if it's Jake Briningstool, you could do a lot worse than a 6'4", 6'6", than a 6'6", 240-pound juggernaut that learned from Dabo Swinney, who has a litany of brilliant pass catchers that have gone through the NFL. He has all the gears that you need. You watch his tape, he gets open well. He has a nose for the end zone like Travis Kelce inside the 10. There are a lot of things about Jake Briningstool that remind you of a young Travis Kelce. And well, why was he undrafted? That was my question. From what I'm able to look, they said run blocking. Well, I think we're used to a tight end where run blocking isn't his top priority. We've only had it since 2013 in Travis Kelce. So that doesn't bother me much. And if you watch Andy Reid's offense, it doesn't bother Andy much either. So I am very excited for Jake Briningstool.
Uiagalelei with a slant right up the seam in stride. Breaking tackles is Briningstool inside the 5-yard line.
What else did he say? There was another thing. Oh, yeah. I can't believe I didn't get to this. Sorry, I forgot until I looked at my notes. Andy Reid personally called Jake Briningstool to recruit him to the Kansas City Chiefs after the draft. So while I understand people wondering, well, why didn't he get drafted? I'm not entirely sure across the board. But what I do know is that Andy Reid doesn't make a personal phone call to recruit a bum. Andy Reid doesn't pick up the phone and call an undrafted guy to try to recruit him to Kansas City because he thinks he's just okay. He must believe that Jake Briningstool can bring something very significant to the Kansas City Chiefs. Otherwise, he wouldn't have picked up the phone and made that call. And he wouldn't have gone the extra mile to make sure he got Briningstool to come to rookie minicamp in Kansas City. And I am so pumped to see what Jake Briningstool brings to the table and what we see in St. Joe in training camp with a Jake Briningstool. He has the GOAT to learn from, right? You have Travis Kelce, the greatest tight end ever. I will not hear your Rob Gronkowski arguments. We've been through this a billion times on this show. Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce are the same age, and Rob Gronkowski hasn't played for almost 5 years. In no statistical category is he close. Well, he's close, but in no statistical category does he beat Travis Kelce. And yeah, it's not even a question. If Rob Gronkowski is literally more of a myth now, he's like a folk hero. You know what I mean? Because yo soy fiesta, I am party, Gronk Spike. Yeah, people are so focused on the hype surrounding what Gronk was that they forget that Gronk wasn't as good as Travis Kelce. He was just a folk hero for a dynasty. He wasn't a top contributor. In fact, most of the time, Aaron Hernandez was better than Rob Gronkowski. He is a folk hero more than a superstar. And they tend to have those in Boston. What's up, David Ortiz? David Ortiz was actually great, but he's not as great as people in Boston think he is. Same thing with Gronk. These guys become folk heroes there. They get pumped up. That's all the reason that people give Gronk his flowers. I'm telling you, he's a folk hero. Now, there's huge diamond in the rough potential here. The big things, his weaknesses. Sorry, I have to find what the internet says, which is anonymous scouts. They say he dropped balls in traffic and run blocking were his weaknesses. Well, the good news here, those are both very improvable things. It's not like he's too small or too slow. He just struggles to catch the ball in traffic, which that's probably a tougher thing to fix than the run blocking. And that's a more worrying thing than the run blocking. Being able to catch the ball in traffic is incredibly important. Get some stickum. Have you seen the gloves they wear now? Come on. How does anyone not catch the ball? I can't imagine how hands are even a problem in the NFL now, since they're all basically wearing legal stickum on their gloves. All right. ESPN released something that I thought was absolutely worthless. Like most things, ESPN releases totally worthless, totally not worth anyone's time, until I read it. And then I was like, oh, we'll have to talk about that. We'll get to it here in just a moment. But first, Justin Tucker. Gone. He is out of here. Justin Tucker released by the Baltimore Ravens during rookie camp after they saw that their rookie kicker was probably better than Justin Tucker's washed ass was last year. I cannot stand Justin Tucker. I was anti-Justin Tucker before it was cool to be anti-Justin Tucker. I was anti-Justin Tucker when he was setting up his little setup pregame right in front of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, trying to antagonize Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And then when he got what he wanted, which was a reaction from Mahomes and Kelce, he played victim. Oh, I was just trying to warm up. They're so mean. He is the worst kind of person. And that was all before we found out that he's been banned from 8 massage parlors in Baltimore after 16 accusations from masseuses of sexual assault. So goodbye, see you later, never again, Justin Tucker. It was fun for you, outlasted, but none of us will miss you. See ya! Oh, that felt good. Woo! I needed that one, man. I'll tell you what's interesting about this, though. First of all, couldn't have happened to a bigger piece of crap than Justin Tucker. But the big thing about this that I find interesting, a little layer beyond my clear distaste for Justin Tucker as a human being, isn't it odd that this only came out after Justin Tucker started kicking poorly? Like, I'm not going to blame the NFL here. It could have been Baltimore. It could have been the massage parlors. I'm not entirely sure. But isn't it interesting that after Justin Tucker starts playing poorly, this issue that he's had in massage parlors that I can only imagine has been an issue for a while sees the light of day? Isn't that strange? We saw a similar thing with Deshaun Watson when he was crushing life, playing his little guitar on the sideline, and hey, we didn't hear anything. Then he blows the lead against the Chiefs. His life turns into a downward spiral. He ticks off the owner of the Texans by saying he wants out. And now suddenly 40 women come forward saying he assaulted them. I think it's interesting. I'm not saying the assaults didn't happen. In fact, I think it's probably more true than not that they did happen. I just think it's interesting that suddenly when guys start playing poorly, people start coming forward about how much of a piece of crap they are. But when they're playing well, when they're the best kicker in the NFL for years, but are still doing this at massage parlors, nobody says a word. What are we doing? How is that possible? Who's covering things up? That's my question, and I don't have an answer. I honestly don't. Who's covering things up? Because clearly it's somebody. It happens everywhere. Diddy's been having those parties since 1998. What happened that suddenly, was it the Cat Williams interview? Is that what it was? I don't know. Maybe. But somewhere along the line, these people that get away with everything, suddenly they start performing not quite at the elite level, and then they stop getting away with everything. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to point out. I'm just saying. Now, moving on, there is potentially one player coming back to the NFL that I think people will find very interesting. We'll touch on him, and then we'll touch on Travis Kelce right after, as he has probably one of the biggest flexes in the NFL. We'll get to that here in a bit. I can't wait to get to that conversation. Now, ESPN put out their power rankings for post-draft, and I thought, who the hell cares? Who listens to what ESPN thinks after the draft? Ooh, who's the power rankings now in May? And then I read it, and I saw they put the Chiefs #1, and I thought, you know what? These guys know what they're doing. They're doing a hell of a job over there at ESPN, guys. You should be easier on them. Everybody thinks it's just some kind of woke joke over there now at ESPN, but they put the Chiefs #1 in the power rankings. So I'm all the way back on ESPN, baby. I'm all the way back on the 4-letter network. The Chiefs, #1 in the power rankings. And you know what? They should be. They should be, because the Chiefs were a better franchise overall. And the Eagles lost a lot of guys. The Eagles put together a juggernaut roster. And sometimes that's going to get you. It kind of seems like this is how the Eagles do it. In 2017, they had a juggernaut roster as well. And they went and they beat Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But then you have to let some of those guys go. What the Chiefs do that is so incredibly impressive on every single level is that they end up building a great roster that can sustain for the long term. It's why they're always there. It's why they've been in the AFC Championship game for the last 7 straight years. Do you have any idea how absolutely insane that is, to be in the AFC Championship game for 7 straight years, especially this AFC? Look around at this conference, guys. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And that's just the top tier guys. There's probably people I'm forgetting. The people are like, what about this guy? But think about that. Your top tier, really, there's the Mahomes tier. Then you have Burrow, Jackson, and Allen. But then you have other guys too. Tua, when he knows where he is a fantastic quarterback. It's a little funny, but I'm just saying, when Tua's not getting concussed, he is a phenomenal quarterback. Part of me feels bad for Tyreek Hill because he's had to walk back all of his Tua Tagovailoa love that he's been given. He sort of had to walk back. But if Tua stayed healthy from the day Tyreek Hill got to Miami, they would actually have a really good football team. But Tua can't stay healthy. I've never seen someone know how to fall worse. You know what I mean? Like, when you get hit, what do? If you watch any WWE or you know anything about pro wrestling, what do you do when you fall? Tuck the chin. Tuck the chin. Tuck the chin. Tuck the chin. If not, it's concussion city. Have you ever watched Tua get hit? He just goes, ragdolls himself down. It's like, yeah, you snap your neck back every time you get hit. You're probably going to get a lot of concussions. What are you doing? Where's your survival instinct, 1? And 2, why did nobody teach this guy how to pratfall? Come on. That's why a lot of people get hit like Tua, but Tua takes, like, it's not a genetic thing or a brain thing. He just doesn't protect himself. But if he did, I think he'd be up in that upper echelon. My point is, the AFC has been incredibly difficult. This is a tough conference at all levels with the best quarterbacks in the NFL by a huge margin. If you were to take quarterbacks in the AFC versus quarterbacks in the NFC, it's not even a conversation. The AFC is so dominant over the NFC at the quarterback position that it only makes it that much more incredibly impressive that the Kansas City Chiefs are in 7 straight AFC Championship games. They're going for their 8th consecutive this year. Again, this conference, that's a mind-blowing statistic and something that everyone should bow down to. But they won't, because everyone wants to find a way why greatness isn't greatness, because they're so insecure about themselves and their terrible team. So they want to cut down the Kansas City Chiefs. Blow them off. Blow them all off. 7 straight in the AFC is an insane accomplishment and something that everyone should bow to. Whether they want to or not, you will kneel to your kingdom. #1 in the power rankings by ESPN because they're doing a great job over there in Bristol, Connecticut. I don't know if you knew that. They're doing a great job. All right, now Travis Kelce has the biggest flex in the NFL. We'll hear from him on the New Heights podcast coming up here in just a moment. But first, There's one player potentially coming back to the NFL that I think everyone can root for that we're going to just touch on here for a second before we get to Travis. And that is Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs can make a comeback next year. His parole date is August 5th, 2026. That's, I guess, his first eligibility for parole. If you remember, Henry Ruggs was incarcerated after a fatal DUI accident in 2021 where he was driving at excessive speeds, hit someone, and they died. And he was under the influence. No brainer, you go to prison. That's how that works. I will be happy for Henry Ruggs if he's able to come back to the NFL. It's not like Ray Caruth, who killed his pregnant girlfriend. Like that's a murder that somebody premeditated. That guy never comes back. This was an irresponsible decision that was fatal and awful, and you feel terrible for the victim, and you knew that Henry Ruggs had to be punished. He absolutely should be punished. But come 2026 in August, he will have served his time. He will have given his debt, which is years of his life, years off of his career, and he deserved that. You can't make that decision, and when it happens, look, it just sucks. It sucks to talk about, but he will have served his time. And he will have. Josh Jacobs right now is trying to really lobby for him to get another shot at the NFL. I think he will. I really do. I think the NFL will say, yeah, he paid his debt to society for a horrible, irresponsible accident. That's the main thing there. This isn't Ray Rice cold cocking his girlfriend or wife or whoever in an elevator. That's someone with malicious intent trying to harm someone else. What Henry Ruggs did was do something incredibly irresponsible and really stupid, and he made a massive mistake. And now he's paid for that mistake. It's easier for me to get over someone who made an actual mistake doing something very irresponsible than it is for me to get over someone who did something wrong over a period of time, Michael Vick, and knew it was wrong but kept doing it. Like, that's a totally different thing where you're legitimately harming other beings knowingly. That's a whole different conversation. Henry Ruggs, I think, will be welcomed back into the NFL with people saying, yeah, you did a really crappy thing and it was really irresponsible, but you didn't mean to hurt someone. That carries a lot of weight with me. I don't know. What about you? You tell me in the comments. I'm excited to see Henry Ruggs get another shot after he's finished paying his debt. Now, one Chiefs rookie everyone is talking about, but I kind of want to wait until preseason to get on the hype train with this one, guys. It's a little weird. People are going to think this is a little off the wall, especially for me being such a homer, but I got to take a little step back. Tell you who that is coming up in just a few minutes. But first, Travis Kelce has the biggest flex in the NFL because Travis Kelce has been in the NFL since he was drafted in the 3rd round by the Kansas City Chiefs in 2013. And every year that Travis Kelce has been in the NFL, he has had a winning record. Never one losing record for Travis Kelce for the entirety of his career, which is an unbelievable flex. Probably the biggest flex that you can have in the NFL because it's so hard to play for a losing team. God, remember when we used to root for teams to run the table in reverse? Then the Lions did it in 2008, and it was really sad, and we were like, oh, man, we didn't really want that. No, it's a huge flex to be able to have every one of your seasons since 2013 be a winning season, playing winning football, and Travis Kelce can say that. Thank you to Andy Reid, Clark Hunt, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's Travis Kelce on New Heights with Joe Thomas, former offensive tackle of the Cleveland Browns, who knows a lot about having losing seasons.
He played on a winless team in Cleveland. I can't even imagine that. Travis hasn't had one losing season.
Very jealous. Losing in the NFL is so hard. And I think in 2016-17, that was the 2 years we went 1-15 and 0-16. And I think their philosophy at that point was like, hey guys, we don't have a team that's good enough to win right now. So we're going to trade back. We're going to collect draft capital. And I don't think they fully understand, or at the time understood, how painful it is to lose in the NFL. How you feel that whole week is 100% related to whether you won or lost.
Won or lost,
and when
yeah.
you lose, you feel sick the whole week. Like you hated going to work.
It's the worst.
Every day. The fans booed you. They still showed up because it's Cleveland, but they were there to boo you, not to cheer you. My rookie season, we were actually 10-6. It was my only winning season. So Travis, let that sink in.
Man, Joe Thomas is awesome. Hey, big flex for Travis Kelce because it's hard to be a great player on a bad team. It's tough. Tony Gonzalez, I think, is a perfect example of this. Tony Gonzalez was with the Chiefs for 10 years, right around that. I think it was 98 to 2008, right? Close to it. It's off the top of my head. I'm not an encyclopedia, but I do have a little bit of sports autism where, like, I know how many yards Drew Brees passed for in 2011, but I don't know what I did for breakfast this morning. But for Tony Gonzalez, a lot of those years, there were a few good ones. I don't want to take it all away from him. Tony Gonzalez had a few nice years with the Kansas City Chiefs, but for the most part, he was a bright spot on a bad team. And then he went to Atlanta to try to win and blah, blah, blah. But it's very difficult to be on a team that's losing. So Travis Kelce, very fortunate that he was able to come to Kansas City. And that's why oftentimes, especially when we talk about the NFL draft and rookies that are coming in, situation is everything. And Travis is great, but Travis would have been great somewhere else too, just not to the level that he's great in Kansas City. And I saw Travis when the Chiefs weren't contending for Super Bowls. He was not happy. Travis is not a losing team guy. I don't think he can do it. We saw those penalties that he got when the Chiefs were just not quite contending for a Super Bowl. Those years where the Chiefs were building with Alex Smith, doing their best and getting to the divisional round, but they weren't getting past that ceiling. And during that time, Travis Kelce was hot. He was pissed a lot of the time. If you remember those days, it wasn't just we've talked about this already, but it wasn't just the personal fouls, which I think it was 2016 where Travis Kelce just got a personal foul every week. It was ridiculous. But he was ticked off most of the time because he knew they had a team that might have been pretty good, but it wasn't going to contend for a championship. Since the Chiefs have been contending for championships, Travis Kelce's been a much happier person. So there is definitely something to that. We're going to finish things off with an interesting story and a clip from Colin Cowherd's show with Julian Edelman, as we are all a little bit worried about Bill Belichick at this point. We'll get to that at the end. But first, one Chiefs rookie. Everybody's talking about this guy, but I got to wait till preseason before I get on the hype train for Jalen Royals. Fourth round wide receiver. Fourth round wide. I can't talk. Fourth round wide receiver drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. He has a lot to like, but he's only 6 feet tall. So he's not necessarily tall enough to play on the outsides, even though he did in college last year. They moved him around to the outsides. But, I mean, the guy averaged over a touchdown a game, so his numbers are fantastic. He looks like he can get open, but he seems more like a slot guy. The Chiefs have a lot of guys that play in the slot. Now, if he's in Kansas City for depth, which makes a lot of sense, he's a fourth-round wide receiver. I don't know why I can't say that today. Fourth-round wide receiver. Now, because of that, I want to give Jalen Royals I just want to take a step back because we still got Remigio. There's still a lot of people on that offense that I think are really good. Juju Smith-Schuster is still with Kansas City. There's a lot of really good wide receivers. I don't know if Jalen Royals sees the field a lot. I don't. Because as talented as he is, I don't know necessarily how he fits into Kansas City's offense. Where does Jalen Royals go? Can he play the outsides? He did a little bit in college, but at 6 feet, it's hard for me to really believe that he's a guy you're going to see playing on the outsides a lot. Not at the NFL level. So where does Jalen Royals fit? It's hard for me to know that until I see him in preseason, until I see him at camp, until I see how the Kansas City Chiefs legitimately want to use Jalen Royals. It's hard for me to get on the hype train because I don't necessarily see where he fits. If he does move to the outside as an undersized outside wide receiver, I think he could get more playing time. If I'm Jalen Royals, if I'm in his camp, I'm telling him, get really good at playing outside wide receiver. Because on the inside, there's Xavier Worthy, there's Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice plays on the inside a lot. I mean, there's a lot of slot guys that you're going to have to go up against in Kansas City. However, on the outsides, it's pretty much wide open. So if Jalen Royals can play on the outside, he will be a phenomenal pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's what we have to see. Can he play on the outside? Can he go get those jump balls, those back shoulders? Can he use his body to box out corners? Usually you want a guy who's in the 6'4" range for that. At 6 feet, it's going to be a much taller order for Jalen Royals. But if he pulls it off, we're talking about another brilliant pick by Brett Veach, which he's got a lot of them. Anything else? Yeah, color me very intrigued by Jalen Royals. Color me very intrigued by him because he does have a lot to love. I'm just very curious to see what he does. All right, finishing this up, Julian Edelman was on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. I love Julian Edelman's podcast, Dudes on Dudes, that he does with Gronk. I like those guys. I don't think Gronk ever touches Travis Kelce in the GOAT debate, but I really like him. I enjoy his show. Now, Julian went on Colin Cowherd not to talk about his show, not to talk about the good old days of the New England Patriots, not to talk about the dudes, but to talk about his former coach, Bill Belichick, because there is a lot of things going on with him and his girlfriend. Woo-wee! Looks like a distraction. Sounds like a distraction. Feels like a distraction. Could be a nightmare. We're hearing that people are worried about Bill Belichick. Those close to him, his family, they're worried. Now, are they just worried about the inheritance money they might not get because the 24-year-old girlfriend took it all? That could be true. But I think the bigger question here, it's true. But I think the bigger question here is this a distraction? His girlfriend's running PR during interviews. She's running PR. She's like, no, don't answer that. Are we at a divorce mediation and you're her lawyer or you're his lawyer? What's going on? What is this? It seems very odd what's going on with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. And I think a lot of people are worried about it. Here's Julian Edelman with Colin Cowherd.
In Patriot Nation, if you were on a text chain, would it be concerned? Would it be he's okay? Because it's like a thing now.
The number one thing we used to talk about all the time in New England was distractions. The game's already as hard as it is to prepare for, to play, to coach. Now that it's gained and it's snowballed to what it's become right now, where we're talking about it 3 weeks later, it's becoming a distraction. Got to practice what we preach here. We got to start worrying about, the ACC. We got to start worrying about Dabo Sweeney. We shouldn't be talking about our girlfriend. That's how Coach would say to us. When it comes down to running a football organization and playing football, let's make the main thing the main thing.
The main thing has got to be the main thing. And for Julian Edelman and Bill Belichick, I'll tell you what, man. I don't ever want to judge anybody because I'm somebody who can get lost in the sauce a little bit, if you know what I mean, like it is with Bill. So I never want to judge anybody when it comes to this stuff. But as somebody who's been there before, Bill, let me try to relate to you here. As somebody who's been there before, are you just having fun? Are you still having fun? It was fun in the beginning. Of course it was fun in the beginning. But is it still fun? Or does it start to feel like a chore? Does it start to feel like someone who's draining you and wanting to essentially live your life for you? And never wants you to be away from her, because if you're away from her, well, then you might be doing some thinking for yourself. And the second you start thinking for yourself, well, you just might realize how controlled you really are by this woman. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to be like, what are you doing? Because I've been there. It's tough. It's tough. You get lost in the sauce. It happens. In this case, the sauce is his relationship. It's as PG as I can put it. That's his lost in the sauce. It doesn't look good. I don't know. I'm not behind closed doors. They could have a phenomenal relationship, and we're all just projecting our own insecurities onto Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. That's all very possible. But it's hard for me to buy, and I think it's hard for a lot of other people to buy too, because it looks like one of the most toxic relationships we could have ever possibly seen. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, Sid and Nancy. I mean Bill Belichick. We'll see what happens. This has been Chiefs Chase. Be careful out there, kids. Be careful. Don't find yourself in love with somebody 50 years younger than you who's trying to run you like a puppet. Don't fall for the gig now. Don't fall for the gig. All right. This has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I enjoy doing this show so much all the time, man. We have such a good time. So please keep liking, subscribing, and being part of the show, interacting on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you for listening to me. I'll see you next time and have an awesome week.